Uh, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of Jing Padang Media. Yana Bialakon. It has been a very long time. I'm going to be sharing this live video, and then I'll start talking. Okay. Uh, First and foremost, just want to take this an opportunity to greet all the viewers of Jing Podang Media and all the South Sudanese across the globe, wherever you are. My name is Abiel Khan. Uh, I have been away from the social media for quite a while, and today I've decided to come back for briefly, and then hopefully those who will be joining me, we can discuss the issue of our beloved country, South Sudan, because it all concern us with the citizens of South Sudan across the globe, whether you are within the country or you are in the diaspora. South Sudan matter to all of us. And since the beginning of April, I have decided to take a break from social media because we have a lot of things that the person can take care of, but it does not mean you don't have to be part of what is going on in South Sudan or even here in wherever you are in this country that we call a second home. South Sudan will be always a priority to all of us because we have beloved ones that are still living in South Sudan. And this is our country. We are all proud to be South Sudanese. And the flag of that nation, it will bring us all together. Our people have struggled for so long. They have shedded blood. Those who have not made it to the independence of South Sudan, those who have died during the struggle, they did not, make it, but they did not die in vain. We have a country called South Sudan today. The topic of today's discussion, I will just talk briefly by myself, because South Sudan political complexity and the way forward for a peaceful country, it is what bring me here tonight. I know that it's early morning in Sudan or in East Africa for that matter, but wherever you are, you may go later on and listen to me, and also you can take what you want to take and then contribute to where you feel you find it fit. Today, the clubhouse became a norm of discussion where people are discussing social matter of the country called South Sudan. and it's good. The more we talk about it, the better we can find a common ground to be able to, uh, to, to, to come to an agreement that yes, there's a need for that country as a way forward. On behalf of myself here, as a member of Jing Podang in Canada, and also the leader of this community, it's good that social media is a way of passing on the message to the people of South Sudan. It's a way that if we have a concern, we are here free to express our opinion. Every South Sudanese is free to express the opinion, and it is also accepted in South Sudan Constitution that freedom of expression is what is all welcome. So when I took this opportunity tonight to come and talk, it is because we love that country, and since the war broke out in 2013, South Sudan has never been peaceful. People have continued to die in that country. After a long struggle of independence, where there was a justification for those who have died for struggle, because they actually needed a country called South Sudan that they would be very proud of. And when we gained independence in 2011, we were all proud. We all took to the third celebration of marking the first independence of South Sudan, the declaration of the independence. It is what makes all South Sudanese across the globe to be very proud, because the birth of the nation, we have witnessed it, as I and many of my colleagues, especially the Red Army, those who actually went to the bushes of South Sudan, those who have struggled and contributed to it. The peace was negotiated. The SPLM has guided the people of South Sudan to cast their vote, and they vote overwhelmingly in support to have independent country. And it was a very proud moment for all of us. But what set us back is the conflict that have started within the ruling SPLM-SPLA. The ruling SPLM party caused this country to go back to war. When some of us continue to believe in the vision and the principle of that party, I do personally believe that. I think that we have missed a track, and which brought us to war. And the only way to salvage this country is that a collective responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the leaders of that country, but it's a responsibility. To my colleague, the Red Army, I think we continue to say that the future belongs to us. I don't think there's no more future that belongs to us. This is the time for the Red Army. This is the time for J.J. Haber. This is the time for this generation that was born in the late 70s, the early 80s. This is the time for you. You can no longer sit back and watch that country to continue to go into the wrong direction. Hopefully, we need to be part of the solution, and the part of the solution is start with the discussion. It start with accepting the fact that the country has went into the wrong direction, and what will bring it about the way forward. It needs the political acceptance that yes, if our senior comrade have led this country into this man-made conflict that they call senseless civil war in South Sudan, which thousands and millions of South Sudanese have fled the country. Today, those in diaspora are working three jobs to be able to support the family, whether in the neighboring countries or within South Sudan. People also in South Sudan, the leaders, they continue to make the decision for the people of South Sudan. Have decided also to have the family residing in the neighboring countries. I was listening to Professor Labumba here, talking about that South Sudan has become a hunting ground where most of these ministers, if not all of them, but most of them continue to have the families in Nairobi, in Uganda, in East Africa countries, even here in the West. They will be going to South Sudan and make money, and that money will be channeled out to the country. It is our making. It is our making that what makes those countries to be beautiful, to have that peaceful, to have that a good school, to have that good road. It is a work for the citizen of that country. So we can do a lot with the people of South Sudan. We can be able to accept that enough of a war in the country. But if you are not happy uh, as a man, there's a limit to everything. There's a limit of peaceful solution to the country. There's a limit that if you continue to suffer, of course, you can boil up and find a better way to be able to solve this problem. Our leaders, our comrades, people of South Sudan, many of them have decided that the only way to solve this problem is to take up gun and fight your own people. But we can also say that yes, that's not the only way where we can solve the issue of the country. We can solve the issue of the people of South Sudan by accepting that the peaceful resolution of the conflict. The peaceful resolution of the conflict is what we have today, where people of South Sudan have actually accepted, to have this huge government where there is 5 vice president, where there is over 500 members of the legislative assembly, the national government, where they have also the members in the state level. President Kiir returned the country into 10 states. And we thought that after this RCS, when the RCS was signed, we thought that people of South Sudan will actually resort to a non-violent, solving the issue of the country. We thought that this huge government will be able to bring the people of South Sudan, accommodate everybody, because it's only the government that is become the sources of income in the Republic of South Sudan. There's no private sectors that where people can invest their money, and the people can youth can be able to work. But the only way that you can be able to work is either to be a government employee, either to join a politics and be part of of the problem that is happening in South Sudan. But we believe that there's, with so many intercommunal crises in the country, cattle raiding is happening. People are being chased from different part of the country. Some people are being labeled as land grabbers in the countries. People have, resorted into the way of solving the matter into their own hands. It seems that the countries have lost track. There's no law and order in the country of the Republic of South Sudan. What can we do? What can we do? Rely on our collective, collective acceptance, that acknowledgement. Yes, people of South Sudan have suffered enough, and if we suffered enough, there's a need for us to think twice. That it's not only the gun is the solution, but it's also peaceful political compromises that can pave a way to the future of that country. I think the future of this country relied on the current youth. Not only youth, if you're over 50 years or 45 years and above, you're no longer youth. If you are members, if you were Red Army or Jesh al-Amir for Sudan, you are no longer youth. I think you have reached the limit of accepting that there is no longer future that the people of South Sudan or the leaders of Australia, especially the late Dr. John Grant, when he used to say that the future of South Sudan belong to you, the Red Army. The future is now, and now it starts from accepting that we have to be part and parcel of that solution. We have to be the part of resolving that issue, the crisis of South Sudan. We have to be part of grassroots initiative that we need to talk to our people in the ground. We need to be part to accept that our senior comrade, yes, their time has come. We will not send them home by post, but we'll send them home by saying that it's time for us to take the torch and make sure that the light continue to light. This is the matter of the fact that many things are continuing to go. The community that used to live peacefully are fighting among themselves. There is everybody now holding gun in South Sudan. everybody want to form a private army and rebel against the government so that your voice can be heard, which is totally wrong. It is in absence of rule, law, and order when the country resorts to that notion that yes, if you are not strong enough, then there's no need for you to be able to be accepted. I personally I support this RSS. That RSS is the only way forward for people of South Sudan. RSS, if implemented in letter and spirit, is the way that can prop the country into the better direction. The leader of SPLM, remember there was a quote they said that if they united, they will loot the countries. If they, separate, if they disagree, they will take the country back to war. What is the way? What is much better? The better, the SPLM, SPLA. I mean the SPLM as the party, not the SPLA. There's no longer SPLA. I'm sorry to make that. The SPLM, the is a party that will not go away very soon. Is a party that need to work collectively, especially these leaders. There's now a call for election in 2023, and is election the right way to resolve these issues? Political deadlock that we had in the country. What are the procedures before we actually go to the poll and vote? There are things that need to be implemented. What about if there's no unified forces that can be trusted by people of South Sudan to safeguard the election, to have free and fair election in South Sudan? Will the losing party accept the result that yes, the election was actually free and fair in South Sudan? If SPLM led by by Comrade Salva Kiir Mayardit won the upcoming election, will the SPLM IU accept that there was a peaceful, free and fair election? Or if SPLM IU actually won, will President Kiir and his party accept that it was a free and fair election? What is the pressure of the international community? What did they say when they say that both leaders needed not to be part of the upcoming election? Is that not the problem by itself? If South Sudan can accept to be imposed, to be given a condition whereby this leader can actually decide to not to be part of the election? What if the people of other opposition army that are not part of this access, will they accept that the country will have a free and fair vote? What about those Soma, the faction of a real SPLM, the faction of the General Malong? Will they accept that? Yes. Will they unite and with other opposition party to form a coalition that will actually challenge the cabinet government or the government of the SPLM in the upcoming election? Will all these things utilize themselves before people go to vote? Because there should have been a need for census to be done, because we don't need this huge government. The huge government alone can, take resources of people of South Sudan, because the members of the parliament needed to be paid. They needed to be paid so that they can do their duties. Is it the huge government is the way forward for people of South Sudan? If we say that we don't go for election, will there be another extension for this access term so that they can continue to have this five vice president of the Republic of South Sudan? Is it a token for peaceful country, that the country with huge government, the country without development, the country without proper school, the country without proper road, inner city road, a country without clear plan, a country that engulfs a lot with the issue of the land dispute that is happening in Upper Nile State, the issue of people with the cattle in the Equatorial region, the issue of tribal differences, demarcation between the tribe in South Sudan. When will all these things resolve? Will electing the new government or giving this government a mandate to carry those? Will it be a solution for people of South Sudan? These are the questions that we need to explore as people of South Sudan. And today I've decided to come and share with you, just send that the way forward is that when there was a negotiation within the unification with the SPLM itself, the old SPLM, including the former Secretary General Pagana Mum, the unification of SPLM that will include Dr. Riek Machar as the chairman of the SPLM in all places, giving President Kiir, as the chairman of the SPLM. Will we have a unification with SPLM that will have a collective SPLM so that we cannot go back to war and an election can be conducted within the unified SPLM? Will the Tanzania or Russia agreement that talk about the unification of SPLM, will it work for the better of that country? I think it's a time for us to be able to ask those questions. Today we are talking about the country that continue to have issue of cattle raiding, the issue of land dispute, the issue of different entity, armed militias. We have SPLM Ayo, Kit Gwang faction. We have SPLM Ayo, led by Dr. Riek Machar, the first vice president. We have also within the SPLM, under the leadership of Comrade Salva Kiir Mayardit. We have other opposition. We have some that is not part of the solution, or not part of the agreement that was signed in the Republic of South Sudan. This is all people of South Sudan, and the toxic atmosphere that we had in a social club or in clubhouse where people are actually talking about so and so are the responsible for what is happening in South Sudan, and certain tribe need to be targeted. What will it bring for people of South Sudan to be able to accept themselves as a unified voice? I know that we are not all happy about what's happening in South Sudan, but we are not even in agreement in a way of how to resolve this issue that we had in South Sudan. Some of us say that we can resolve this issue by peaceful dialogue, where we can put all gun down and try to solve this issue dialogue among the political parties. Let have South Sudan that is a multi-party system where you can form a coalition to challenge anybody that has a party. If people of South Sudan decided to vote you into the presidency, of course, there should be no question about where you come from, because you are South Sudanese. And every South Sudanese has, a dream. You can dream to be a president of that country. Why not? You can be a politician of that country. You are South Sudanese. So it's not a crime to have a dream to be someone, whether a politician. Some of people of South Sudan even does not mind about politics itself. We should have people that will go and retire in the farm, will cultivate it, because we need an economy that will run itself and not rely on the government, employment. We need to have atmosphere that will create private sectors where people will invest. If you have the money, go and, whether you want to be a businessman, you want to be a farmer, you want to be, a fisherman, you want to be, an investor, invest in South Sudan in real estate, and so many things that can be able to encourage. But what we need in South Sudan is a peaceful nation, a peaceful country that will have an atmosphere that if I, Abiel, went and have a farm in a nearby village, decided to stay there, no one will come and attack me because I'm from a certain tribe. If I have my farm, nobody will bring the cattle to be able to destroy my farm, my crops. Let us have a country that will have a rule of laws, that if you make a mistake, you can only be punished because you made that mistake, where we cannot generalize entity or tribe or ethnic that this is because of so and so. And I know that in South Sudan we don't have the so-called second or third class citizen. We are all equal people of that country. We are all equal in that country. So we don't want to be. We don't have what we have in South Sudan. We just need rules of laws. Uh, the policy of appeasement by President Kiir government or President Kiir himself, that he need to appease all people of South Sudan so that they cannot revolt against his government, I think is what make things worse in South Sudan. But if there was a strong laws and order that if you rebel against this country, if you charge with the treason, what are the punishment of those charges? You can either spend years in jail, or that you can even be charged with the death sentence because you revolt against the nation. These are things that need a strong institution. We need to create a system of governance in South Sudan where the devolution of power among whether between the state, the municipality, and also the federal government, which is we call it a central system of government. So we need people of South Sudan need to have a constitution that will be respected by the people of South Sudan, and it is why we believe that the future of the Red Army, whether you are within the people of South, whether you are in the South Sudan or whether you are in diaspora, the future is now. There's no more future for you. The future that we talk about should be the future for my kids, the future for your kid, the future for next generation. But the future, our future is now. What can we do to contribute to make sure that we have a peaceful country? The future is now. I remember Comrade Piang, when he was interviewed in his farm, he say even when they joined, when people went to bush, most of them, by that time they were in the maybe 15, 16 or 18. Some of them were in first year universities, and they were compelled by the quest for liberation of the people of South Sudan. Most of them decided to leave their school behind. And most of them have decided, to pick up guns so that the quest of people of South Sudan can be heard loud and clear. But I'm not saying that let us all pick up gun and fight in South Sudan. Totally, that is out of question from me. That is out of question from me myself. I believe that we can make a change by being part of the system itself. Now we have people that are part of that system. We have people of our generation that are part of this government, whether in the state level or whether in central government level, and they are contributing into making sure that we need to see a change in that system. To be part of the change, to, to to see the change, you have to be part of that change. We cannot be in the sideline and say that I want a change in that country. That cannot happen until we accept that the future belong now to us. That the future does not belong. There's no any future that we can all talk about the future, but we can talk about what do we need to contribute. What do we need to contribute? Whether in your own way, what do you want to see that the change can come? Remember, change is not easy. I know that even here in the West, when people talk about change, because we don't know the change itself, but we know now what was happening. Are we happy of what is happening in South Sudan? Are we happy that our people in the displaced camps? Are we happy that people in the neighboring countries? Are we happy that millions of people are actually scattered across Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, even here in the West? No, none of us are happy. Are we happy that here in the West, some of us are working 3, 4 jobs so that they can be able to support their families wherever they are? There's sometimes we don't get enough time to spend with our family here in the West because we are spending time working. Are we happy? Of course, we're not happy. That's why we want to see that we have a peaceful country, a country that will have a school, a country that will have a good roads, a country that will have a security, that we cannot fight over the issue of the land, that this land belong to me or belong to my tribe. The country that we cannot, you know, generalize all the tribe because the president came from them or the vice president came from them, or one of their sons make a mistake, therefore we need to generalize all people of that country. The mentality of tribes is what killing the people of South Sudan and Africa at large, just of course. Of course, we can speak about the issue that are matter to all of us. You can speak about the issue that are concerning you, your family, your extended family, your tribe. But in South Sudan, I think there's a need for us to accept that we are one people, one community, one nation. We have a lot in common than we think. You know, the generation of our forefather was much better than us because the generation of our forefather were living peacefully among the tribal line. They know the tribal boundaries between the tribes, that none of them were actually talking about this land belonged to me because they understood, even though they were not educated, they understood that there's, even among the clan itself, among the one section of the ethnic group, they understand that it is my boundaries, they understand clearly. You know, oral understanding of a demarcation, they know that this is stream passed by here, this is our stream, is what divide has between so and so. Now, in our generation, the community that were living there peacefully for centuries turn it against themselves that we are fighting because my land has been taken, that the government of President Kiir has given my land away to this tribe, that my land was my land before that time, therefore it's my land. It's a small matter. Of course, the land is the resources that identified you as an individual, as a person. What we need in South Sudan is to have a land act. For example, let me talk about the issue within Malakal. These communities that now fighting over the land, that the Shuluk or the Chola, the Jiang Padang, for example, this community were living there for centuries. They live there among themselves. They understand. They know the boundaries clearly identified by whether by oral song or by the colonized that came when they came to Sudan. They identified which tribe actually live where in the country. You know, in the past few months, I've been doing my own research myself because the issue of the land dispute between these two tribes is something need to be to have a well documented research history so that you can understand. So when you come and talk about it, you'll be able to justify it, the reason what we are saying. In 18th century, 1800, during the colonization period, when some of these invaders came, or some of those colonized came to Sudan, they identified people who live where. By that time, none of us speak that language, but they came with the interpreters along the Nile. Some of them actually was traveling along the Nile from Khartoum all the way to Uganda. Every time they stop, they have written a memoir that describe what they have found. Because when you write a memoir, if I wrote my memoir, I write my memoir both on my life history, or when I went to, how did I get there, whom did I find, what did I do. So they wrote a memoir. Most of them wrote a memoir. Some of them that actually wrote a memoir about the trip along the Nile. In 1870 something to 1900, by that time they used to say this country, the ethnic tribe were identified as the country because they speak different language, they have different culture, they have different way of life. So they were called country. There was a country of Dinka, there's a country of Cholo, you know, and these people they usually come and identify. Okay, they identify you because the language you speak, or they ask who are you in these places. So when we come to talk about the issue of the land, we are not just talking about it because we don't do our own research. That's why we are saying before we come to conclusion. I know that in 18 there was a migration that was happening between these two tribes, between the tribe of the Sen Nilotic, especially the Dinka, the Nuer also came in late 1900 to the present Eastern Nuer along Nasser there. So I'll have time where I will present it, what I have found, and the fact that when we talk about the boundaries issues, is something need to be understood. But is it fighting over it is a solution to it among these tribes that live peacefully for centuries? Of course, everything can start with fight, but will end in dialogue. Even these two communities later on, they will find a time where they will sit down, they will present their facts, and the solution will be found. You know. But let us look into the issue of the South Sudan itself. There's a major town there residing like Malakal, like Bor, like Bentiu, like Wow, like Juba, the capital city. Why the government of South Sudan actually? Because there should be a land that are allocated to the government of South Sudan. They can say that this land is belong to South Sudan, but there should be a land that are allocated to the tribe in the Republic of South Sudan. Here in the West, you live in a city. Of course, the government that the land, but they acknowledge the treaty that they have signed with the indigenous people. Here is a Treaty 6, for example. If there's a public occasion that is being done by the government, they recognize the treaty that they have signed between the government and the indigenous people of South Sudan. So, just they have a phone call. I had I lost my train of thought, but it was good that What brought me in is that I just want to assure the people of South Sudan, and especially the Padang media followers, that we are around, but there's some personal issue sometimes that we need to take care of. We cannot be occupied all the way by social media. We have a family here that we need also to have time, especially if we have a young family that you need to help the mother at home. People are working two jobs. There's no time for everything. On top of it, we have to come home and also support our spouse when the issues for raising kids. It's not easy in the West. You are also, whether both of you, you are the cousin, you are the grandma, you are the auntie. If you don't live close by with the people that are much closer, and therefore we need to support ourselves as the communities. And if you live with your spouse, it's good that the raising kid is not easy, especially the young families that like myself. The kid need to be involved in other activities. It need activity like, instead of spending time here in cracking social media, I've decided that there's much attention need to be also given time to the family as well. So it is not that we have forgotten the commitment of our community. The community is very important, but the priority that we had, the family is a priority, and then the community will come and do. If we have time, of course, we're able to contribute to make sure that we have a better community, that we need to be respected. Uh, because in the West here, when you don't pay attention to helping the kids, with schoolwork, the homework, some sport activities, so that the kid can be actually active and not bored, and that what contributed to the issue that we had here in the West. So the more we spend time even in clubhouse, I don't usually now go there. I'll be seen in clubhouse, but mostly I'm not active as before, because I thought that yes, there's a time for everything. There's a time for your own self. You need to reflect back and also think what are the positive things that can be done that you can contribute. Uh, so South Sudan is a country at the crossroad. I believe that the election is a good thing to be done in South Sudan, but before the election actually could go ahead, there are some serious steps that need to be taken by the government of South Sudan. I think I may have heard a few weeks ago that the current acting SG of the SPLM was talking about election to be conducted without census that need to be done in South Sudan. That it will be done by the census of 2010 that was carried out when before South Sudan became independent. Of course, the issue of census need people of South Sudan to go back to their places. They need people of IDP that are living in the POC camp. We need people that are living in neighboring countries, in Kenya, in Uganda. They need to go back so that they can be counted, registered in the Payam, in the counties, in the province, so that they can cast their vote. These are things that need to be done. But the most important thing is the security of people of South Sudan. That you cannot conduct an election where everybody actually is carrying arms, where everybody continue to have your own separate army. As we speak, we have Kitgwang forces. We have also forces of Abulik that are not part of the SPLM that was broke away. And we have also people of SSPD, which is the main South Sudan Defense Forces. And then today I read that Burhan, which is the grantor of the current Khartoum peace agreement, the Reptile peace agreement, resolution of conflict in South Sudan, came to Juba and presented. The need to have a unified forces that need to be graduated. We need that because we don't have to have an election where we have this total armies that are in disarray. This is a recipe of going back to conflict. And if South Sudan resort back to the conflict, of course, we will be in a dire situation where it will be very hard for us to salvage that country. You know, I know that the leader in Juba are working very hard. Even I applaud those who have accepted the peace to be part of the solution. Those who went back to South Sudan to be able to contribute in a way that is possible for them to make that country peaceful. But also here in the West, we need our voice to be heard. That we either support the need for election in South Sudan, because we cannot continue to have a war now. 8 years down the line later on, people of South Sudan are still suffering. People, there's issue of cattle raiding in some part of South Sudan. There's the issue of the land dispute that need to be resolved. We need to have a demarcation of and what make it worse is because people of South Sudan actually, do not see a lawful country where the laws can be respected. If you make a mistake, for example, if you went and raid somebody's cattle or you went and destroy someone's farm, you have to be held accountable because you have made a mistake, and that accountability need to be done. I'm thankful to the governor of Lagos State for restoring peace and order in that state, where the state now is peaceful, and that is what needed in South Sudan. South Sudan does not need, a weak leader. South Sudan needs a strong leader that will implement the laws and order. That as I make a mistake, I'll be accountable for the mistake that I made. If I make a corruption, of course, I have to be dealt, because corruption is the worst, even than fighting, because you are looting people of certain resources. You are spending what need to be spent in development, enriching yourself, enriching your families. You are using the way illegal mean of acquiring wealth that is still acceptable, and it's worth. If you, I don't say that there's no corruption everywhere. Of course, there's a corruption, but a corruption that use 95% of the resources to yourself, only use 5%. That's too much. You better let us see a tarmac road within the inner city. Let us see a scrap building. Let us see a conducive environment that will actually encourage investors in South Sudan. Let us see that the civilians are not resorting into resolving the issue of fighting among themselves. The issue of fighting among the communities cannot be encouraged by the government. And what was said by the president that time was actually a mistake. And if the president has an advisor that need to advise him, that there's something that sometimes you don't say it because you're the leader of the nation. People are looking into your words. Here in the in the West, the word of the politician make a lot of noise, whether in the era of economic meltdown. Remember when Trump was in the office, there are a lot of things that if he said something, people will, the market will go down, the market will go up. So if you're a leader of that nation, I think any death of one single man, or child, or woman in South Sudan is your concern. Your concern is to provide protection for that country. Your concern is to save the people of South Sudan, whether they are supporting you or whether they are voting for you or not. You are the head of that nation. So sometimes there are remarks that you don't say it, even if you want to say it. Politically wise, you don't say them. And that what put even the former president of the United States in hot water sometimes, because he still speak as a businessman. So President Key, sometimes you still speak as you're still fighting the war of liberation. You should speak as a statement. You should express your feeling, knowing that what you said will be taken seriously, by either your political opponent or people of South Sudan, ordinary citizen. Especially the remark that you have said that if you continue to fight, I will have my own army to protect myself, and I will not come to your rescue. This statement was totally wrong, and was a mistake. I know that our people continue to fight among themselves. It is because of absence of rule and law in the country. If there was a rule and law, even I remember during the SPLM, SPLA, our citizens were not fighting among themselves the way they are fighting now. Our people were not having that hatred among themselves the way they have now in South Sudan. So for that country to be peaceful and the way forward, we need to have a constitution. We need to have a rule of law that if I make a mistake, I have to be held accountable. Many people, many comrades have lost their life because even they went and whether they took belonging of the civilian when we are fighting the war of liberation, and they were held accountable. And that's why I believe this is what is needed in South Sudan. We need a country that if you make a mistake, for example, now in a state like Lagos State, I can take that example. When Governor Ring went, Field went to that state with the backing of the people, they have sat down and said a law that we cannot longer condone those are making a lot of problems in that country. It's eye for an eye. For example, you make a mistake, you take an eye, then your eye will be taken out. The carpet that were looting or raping innocent women along the road, cattle raiding, looting property along the road. They were given what they deserve, and that what brought this law and order in that state, and this is what needed in South Sudan. There should not be longer what they call continue an agreement, violated agreement, function agreement, continue to have. For how long are you going to appease everybody in South Sudan so that, no matter how you appease them, tomorrow they will not be, they will take side and go to the bushes, try to fight you. As long as Africa continue to have those a lot of bushes that in South Sudan, for example, will have a lot of rebel that will be roaming in the street, but they need to be dealt the way that the rebel has to be dealt with. What happened in Ethiopia a few weeks, it was, the president himself went to the front line and said that, yes, I took an arm because our country need to be destroyed by the enemy of peace. And we have people, the same people in South Sudan, we have enemy of peace that continue to benefit because their families are not there, because the families are living happily, whether in the West or in neighboring countries, and they continue to have a looting ground in South Sudan. I believe that the young majority of this member of parliament, they don't have their families in South Sudan. I believe that what Lubumba said, that South Sudan is the hunting ground. Of course, if you make a degree today, whether you are a civil servant or whether you're part of the government of South Sudan, whether you are ministers, state ministers, for example, if you don't have your family in the country, there should be no need for you to be part of that government in South Sudan. I believe our people will understood that. And you'll have a backing of people of South Sudan, the million innocent people that cannot afford to send their families to neighboring countries, the million of people that have the family in the refugee camp. They can support your decision in making that, yes, we cannot make South Sudan a hunting ground. We want to make South Sudan a useful, beautiful, developed country that we can be all proud for. That you will go and, instead of going to Nairobi for vacation, I can go to my village, my farm, and have a vacation that I needed there instead of flying out of the country. That the money that I made will be able to be used circulating within the country. That the business in South Sudan cannot be controlled by the foreigners. Because what we have in South Sudan is that the businesses that we have in South Sudan are controlled by the foreigners, whether it's a hospitality business, for example, hotels, restaurant, and other part of the business. Uh, when people of South Sudan can do that, when we graduated thousands of graduates annually in South Sudan and they cannot find a job, we need to invest in the private sectors where encourage the entrepreneur that have a mind of having a business in South Sudan. That having also your Janena is a part of business. You can have your own, tukul that you can support other employ two to three people. Here in the West, 75% or even 70, whatever, 80% of employment are done by the private sectors. It's only 10% actually employed by the government, whether it's state government, municipality government, or the federal government. But the rest of the employment are all controlled by the private sectors. And that's why you see the governments always favoring, investing in the private sectors, encouraging people with business, giving them a tax break, making sure that the tax are low so that people will invest in that state or that country. This is a need. The need for that is needed in South Sudan. That let us encourage, but the most important thing is stop violence, silence the gun, create a conducive environment so that people here in the West can be able to invest in South Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, I am still around. Jing Padang Media is still existing. We don't come as usual as before, but we are here around. I will let me see. I've talked for over 1 hour. I usually don't talk that much, but sometimes it's good that we talk so that we can be able to. I'll put a song and share a link for those who will be able to turn in for just a matter of 1 hour. In 30 minutes, I'll be off. Uh, I have talked for so long, and I just want to conclude this show by saying that the issue of South Sudan حاجات مهم جدا، لأن كلنا نحن شعب جنوب السودان القاعدين في خارج والداخل. دينا شبه الدولة جنوب السودان يكون دولة عنده سلام، لأن نحن كلنا طبعا محتاجين عندنا نكون دولة ما فيه حرب، يعني ما فيه شغلة، عشان شعب الجنوب شعب يعيش زي ما هم عايشين قبل استقلال زمن بتاع تحرير الجنوب السودان. في ناس ماروا طبعا بحاجة لأنه دايرين الوطن اللي ممكن يجيبنا كلنا. جنوب السودان اليوم ما جنوب السودان اللي كان ناس الكثير طبعا الشعب الجنوبي اللي كان دفع الزمن بتحرير الجنوب والسودان بالذات. عندنا ناس في كل الشعب في كل أسرة في جنوب السودان طبعا تبع زمن they pay a price for that country to be called South Sudan. And I believe today that if they wake up from the grave, they will regret. But طبعا حاجة كل إنه زمن. There's nothing that has no end. Everything that has a beginning has an end. So this war that we have caused ourselves, the suffering that have lost thousands of lives in Sudan, هيكون الزمن بتاعه طبعا هيجي. بس الزمن ده يكون زمن يا طبعا ده نتكلم فيه إنه لما نقدر نجمع صوتنا كلنا الجنوبيين القاعدين في داخل والخارج، ونقول لأخواننا اللي في سلطة إن يا جماعة ما دايرين الجنوب يشاكل بعضهم، ما دايرين الجنوب يكون دولة ما في دولة القانون، ما دايرين الجنوب ما يكون وطن اللي فيه مدارس، اللي فيه شوارع، اللي فيه موية صافي، اللي فيه مستشفيات. My message to my fellow comrades in the SPLM, whether you are in opposition, whether you are with this peace agreement, especially the former Red Army and the Jaish al-Amr with that, and the youth, I think there's no more future طبعا. ما في حاجة بقولونه مستقبل تاني. If you are in your 50s or 45, what future do you actually think left for you? There's no more future that you can say that the future that country, the future belongs to us. Of course, our son also is is going down. Therefore, the future the future is now. المستقبل ما بالمستقبل تاني طبعا نتكلم فيه إنه المستقبل يكون مستقبل عيالك. We need to leave something behind to our kids, whether they are born out of South Sudan, they are proud South Sudanese, and we are concerned about the future of that country. What this generation that will be written in history, that the generation that have failed this country in South Sudan. The historian, if they wrote the history by then, the generation of our forefathers have done a remarkable job of having a united, coexisting tribe among themselves. But our generation is a generation that actually caused the friction between the tribes, and I believe that it was engineered by our fellow senior comrades that were part of the struggle, that they had their own tribal agenda. They understood that if you have a population that is not educated, 10 years is enough for people of South Sudan. If we were having a peaceful country, I believe 10 years since the independence to now, we will have a generation that can also read and write. We will have an adult school in all corners of South Sudan, even in villages, invest in education. that we need in 10 years' time, you can have a newspaper that you can read and write, whether in your dialect or in English or Arabic, in your villages. It's open a school. This is the best thing that SPLM could have done. But SPLM was preoccupied by enriching themselves. They want to gain wealth. They want to have houses, not even in South Sudan, but they want to have houses in Nairobi, in Kampala, in Uganda. They want to build there. They don't want to build in South Sudan. But I think they knew what was coming. Taban, they say no, Taban, where your heart is where your family belong. It's where your heart belong to. You know, if they were not, taking vacation in Nairobi, in Uganda, in Kampala, in Addis Ababa, in Sudan, I think they would have not even think about taking this country back to war, because they know that they have a majority of their wealth outside of the country, and therefore they were not thinking about the livelihood of our people. Today we have a generation that will have a hard time to be able to live peacefully as the way their forefather was living before. And I believe we can correct that by understanding that the issue of the land cannot divide us. We are one people. We can live wherever we live in South Sudan, with respecting of the law of that state, of that province. If your cattle went and destroyed somebody's farm, you will be accountable. If you are farmers and you went and killed somebody's cow, you will be accountable. If you are cattle raider and you went and loot somebody's cattle, you will be accountable. Because our local chief in the villages, and they can know, identify who are those cattle raiders by giving them the law that if you don't provide those cattle raiders, you will also be accountable as a chief, a local chief in that clan. Because they understood, they know themselves. They know who are the cattle raiders. They know who are abducting kids. So we just need a strong laws, a country of laws and orders. Here in the West, if I make a mistake, I can only be answerable to my mistake. My family cannot be part of it. This is what we want in South Sudan. Peaceful, respectful country among the nations. Let us not be loving stock in our neighboring countries, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, Ethiopia. We should not be loving stock among these nations, because we are very strong, capable people. The way of governing ourselves does not start from the modern way. We were governing ourselves from the get-go, even before the independence of Sudan. Our people used to elect the chief by lining up and saying there's a term for you, and if your term is up, you'll be elected by the people. That was alone a system of governing that we had. There was a kingdom in Sudan. There was a Nuer kingdom. There was a Sholo kingdom, and Zande now they have a kingdom. See, this was a system of governing. Dinka, they don't have a kingdom, but they have a system of governing themselves. Nuer, they don't have a kingdom, but they have a system of governing themselves, where they elect the leaders, and the term is finished. Then it will be changed by the people of that clan, of that section. Instead of modern way of like the same system that we had here. The common law that we had, if you make a mistake, a pregnant girl, I'll be also answerable to my mistake. These are things that we need in South Sudan and Jamana. We need a country that is peaceful, so that some of us here will go retire peacefully and live in South Sudan. Many of us doesn't need to be part of politics. We don't need to be politician to be heard. I can just go and open my business, build my own farm, cultivate, have my own boat, be a fisherman, Just go and fish, eat organic, organic meat, organic everything, not not chemicalized material there in the West that causing a lot of cancer and everything. So South Sudan is a country that need a lot of thinking. And I applaud those who are in social medias, but let us not make it toxic enough for people of South Sudan to hate themselves. Enough is enough, and it's time for people to resort to peaceful solution. Election is not bad, but there are things need to be done before the election proceed. We need to see unified forces graduated. We need to have an election commission set up, independent election commission that cannot be used or intimidated during an election. We need to have a free and fair election in South Sudan, that anybody that intended to campaign can peacefully, peacefully express uh, his opinion, why he thinks a better candidate than uh, the opponent, a campaign for ideas and ideology, that he can be elected because of your idea and ideology that you present to the people of South Sudan, not because of your tribe. A country that will accept the coalition of multi-party system, that is not only the one-party system in South Sudan. The country that would have a separate independent army that cannot be used to intimidate other people, that none of the leaders can have their own army that can answerable to them, but the only army that will be answerable to the constitution of the country. You know what makes the West more strong is the constitution, is the way of governing, freedom of expression. I disagree with my political leaders today. I criticize him based on ideas and the way they lead the party. Sometimes I can be kicked out from the caucus, but doesn't make me that enemy to the person, because I did not differ with you personally, but I differ with you because of your political direction, how you led that country. Today, there are people that will differ with President Kiir because he's the chairman and the president of the country and the leader of the SPLM. Even within the SPLM, you should have a freedom of expression that you can express. If the leaders fail to take the country to the right direction, then the leader can be challengeable by a vote of no confidence within the party. And then the party can decide it whom they will actually bring. We need this country system in South Sudan. That is not a matter of who you are or where you came from, but it's a matter of what you have in your mind. How best can you serve that people of South Sudan? So that if I went and vote for you, I don't vote for you because you're a Dinka or you're a Nuer or you're a Chiluk or Zande or Latuka or other 64 tribe, Maban, Akoma, Kachipo, Taposa. I vote for you because you have an idea that embedded in you, that I see you want to lead this country and make it a better nation. The success is not a one night stand, just open overnight. It's a gradual process. South Sudan is no longer a baby. People say that, yes, we are a baby. It's no longer a baby. 2011 is all enough to be able to walk, to be able to talk. and he can, could be in maybe grade what, grade 5. So let us think critically and think twice. I just want to let people that miss haven't seen me coming live in Padang Media or in Clubhouse. In the beginning of New Year, I make myself a promise that I don't want to be part of a toxic discussion. I want to be part of a positive vibration in the country, and a better way forward. I can disagree with you, but I will not resort into personal insult or that sort of things. But I will disagree with you because politically, that's not the way I see the thing to be done in South Sudan. I don't see that we can resolve this crisis by taking up arms and continuing to kill ourselves. I see that the only way for people of South Sudan to change this government is through democratic process. The time will come when people of South Sudan will rise up and say, enough is enough with SPLM. Even Dr. John Garang himself said that if we don't provide a salt, if we don't provide the water, we don't provide school, we don't provide education, we don't provide medicine, what will be the cause of struggle? Of course, no. What will be the better? What will be the need for people of South Sudan to have independence if they cannot have people in South Sudan, if they cannot have the kid to go to school, if your farm is being destroyed, if your cattle are being killed, if we don't have a tarmac within the city, if even what we found we destroyed ourselves, even Kwame Young said, whatever we found when we came and destroyed more, we didn't even build anything. Juba is not the only way, it's not the only solution. We need to have a doctor in the villages, we need to have a pharmacist in Payam, we need to have a primary school in Iberi Payam, in Iberi counties. We need to have a system or ideology that in 10 years' time, people of South Sudan will be more educated, at least read and write, a population that can read and write in the country. That we need to invest in education because education is the way forward. We need to invest in technology because it's now people are raising through the technologies. This is what we need. We need a politician that is more capable of accessing social media, having Twitter account, expressing themselves so that they can be able to send their messages, and also the constituencies can be able to read and write, see what the member of parliament are doing. We need to have a public that is aware politically that is your right to demand good school, is your right to say that I need a better hospital, is your right to tell the government that I need a good road. It's not, it's not to be given to you, but it's your right. You have to demand it. You have to ask for it. You don't provide it, I don't need you to be my representative. I don't have you to have to stay in Juba. You're not presenting people in Juba, but you're presenting me in my local Payam, in my county. This is what I needed. This is a population that need to be politically aware of what is the right and what is not the right. It's your right to express your opinion, to criticize your member of parliament, but it's your right also to demand services that can be provided by the government. A good school, a good hospital, a good road. These are the right of people of South Sudan. So the people in Juba can understand that. The President Kiir have to know that it's the right that the money for oil are used for development, that we need a road, yes, the right. This is the many people of South Sudan. Let us not put South Sudan to debt. The debt that will be paid by generation to come. Let us know what is the debt and what are the interests. Why are we taking much loan when we have resources in South Sudan? Why are we not investing in agriculture? Why are we not investing in, in fishery? Why are we not investing money so that we can have a country that can produce, but not a country that can actually, import or export? We need a country that can produce itself, goods and services. A country that will be able to provide for the own citizen. A country that if you work, you get paid. You don't just work and you don't get paid. A country that a teacher can be paid more than a member of parliament sometimes that pay more money, get more money than the teacher that provide good education, than the doctor. We need to invest in a generation that will have identified, if there's a breakout of another COVID-19 or another dead pandemic, South Sudan will be ready enough to confront them, buy their own medicine. We need to have a country that we all proud for, that let us do registry for all educated South Sudanese in diaspora. A small government, not the big government. We need to have only, the president and the vice president. We need to have a lean government, but not the huge government that we have based on these artists. But we support artists if that's what will bring peace in South Sudan, and there's no problem about it. Let us have peace. Implement peace agreement. Unified forces need to be graduated. The issue of the land dispute need to be settled. For how long are we going to fight about the land? That can be resolved by the government of South Sudan. That can call these two communities and sit down and another go to court or resolve these issues. That people are fighting over the issue of the land in Abyei. People are being killed. For what? They live peacefully for centuries. Why are they being killed? Because of the land. Is it not because there's no strong institution? That what could have been prevented? The government have failed to provide security. Tell me, how can I support that government? How can I support the government that is not providing security to the people of South Sudan? How can you even go and campaign when you are not confident enough to be secure if we are going for a campaign? I think the government need to think twice. The people of South Sudan has enough in their plate. You may think that you are strong enough, but the change may come. I, for one, believe that SPLM has a chance of the only party that can actually bring peace in South Sudan. Is the election a solution? Of course, not now. Show us the criteria that are put in place so that if election is conducted, people of South Sudan will not go back to war. Show us that if you lose an election, you will not resort into armed conflict and kill innocent people of South Sudan. Whether you are SPLM in government, as you call yourself, or whether you are SPLM IO, or whether you are, other political party, whether you are part of this peace agreement, whether you are talking about the way forward is to have a peaceful country. By what? By accepting that guns and violence are not the solution. I think the world now have come to understand that we in Africa can continue to kill ourselves no matter how people talk about it. We are one people in South Sudan. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have talked enough. I have expressed my opinion. The South Sudan solution is our solution. South Sudan problem is our problem, and we need to find a way for it. That the Red Army, the future is now. There's no future that we can say the future belong to us. The future is now. I just want to say it. I'm around, and I'm concerned about the political complexity in South Sudan. And we need a peaceful country. Thank you very much for listening. I'll put the last song and then I will see you today or tomorrow. Good night, good morning, good evening, wherever you are.